Hello darlings, and welcome to my 2025 book wrap up and favorites video. So in 2025, I read my first 6-star book. I DNF'd a book for the first time. I read 6 series. I started 2 and then continued another. I read overhyped booktok books, and then I read a total of 24 books, but then DNF'd 2, making it a total of 26. So I think I want to start the video with my favorite books that I read, and then go to the meh, and then the couple ones that I really didn't like. They were my least favorites. I was really okay if I just did not ever read them, more so in the fact that I was mad that I read it, that I wasted my time reading them, but it's okay. We learned how to DNF a book, so I think we are going to continue with that this year. If I don't like it, I don't need to force myself into reading them and just simply DNF the book. And then from there, we'll be going into the books that I'm going to be unhauling from my library. I think I have to start with my first 6-star book. I do not have the physical copy. I borrowed it from my sister. The book is called She Started It by Sean Gilbert. That is the best book I have ever read in my life, so much so that I'm already getting chills, which sounds silly, but the ones who love books will understand. I just got full body chills just thinking about it again. So it is a mystery thriller, and it follows a group of 4 estranged friends who were best friends in high school, and then they had kind of like a natural falling out, but then we learn why they have a falling out, and they are actually going on a bachelorette trip, or a hen party, which is what the UK call a bachelorette party. But the bride is actually a former classmate who they actually used to bully, and they are confused as to why they got an invite to her hen party or bachelorette party whenever they were not so kind to her. There was one out of the 4 friends who was friends with this bride, and then later on, you know, got with the clique, got with the popular girls, and then just completely disassociated herself from her. I'm gonna read the synopsis of it to get you to read the book, because if there's any book out of this whole video that you need to read, it is She Started It. And if you have read it, please let me know without spoilers what you thought of the book. She Started It. This is about 4 women, once inseparable, but now drifted apart. They are invited to a lavish bachelorette party by an old friend, Poppy. The island setting proves to be more isolated than expected, and the party takes a dark turn as past bullying and secrets come to light. It is a psychological thriller about 4 estranged childhood friends who reunite for an extravagant bachelorette party on a remote Caribbean island, where old secrets and rivalries resurface with sinister consequences. The story told from shifting perspectives, which is, side note, I loved it. You get the perspective from each 4 of the friends, so what they're going through, obviously their perspective of the events that take place on the island, so it's so cool. You also get flashbacks from when they were in high school, so that's also really fun. And it explores themes of friendship, betrayal, and revenge, with a plot that twists from a fun getaway into a dark, suspenseful mystery. Perfect for fans of summer thrillers. Just hear me out. Just read the book. It's impeccable. It's the best book I've ever read. So for my other favorites, it would have to be the Inheritance Game series. I loved this series. It was so good. It was so fun. These were actually the first books I read in 2025. I started out in January and I read all 4 of these books. They are a YA book series, and although I do not typically like to read YA that have students in high school, I'm just so far from that age that it just feels weird. It didn't feel like a high school book, if that makes sense. It was so fun. It was full of adventure. It didn't focus solely on their age as it did like the storyline and the adventure of the books. If you haven't read it, I think it would be really fun to read, because if it's more of like a YA romance where they're in high school, I can't. It's just weird. I'm not at that age anymore. It feels wrong. But for this, where it's more mystery, then it's totally fine, because it's just like a fun mystery little series. So if you have not read these books or know anything about it, so this follows our FMC Avery, and she randomly one day just gets told that she has to go to Texas to listen to the reading of a will of a random old man named Tobias Hawthorne that she has never heard of and never seen before. So she has to drop everything and get on a plane, a private jet, with one of Tobias Hawthorne's grandsons, Grayson Hawthorne, and go all the way to Texas to listen to the reading of the will, and she has no idea why. And it's during the reading of the will that she is told that she will inherit the entire Hawthorne fortune in 1 year's time if she follows the rules that Tobias set for her in the will. She's then up against Tobias's children and grandchildren, who believes that they were going to inherit the fortune because obviously that's their dad slash grandfather, and why would it go to a random girl? It is such a fun series. It's got a lot of puzzles, twists, turns, secrets are revealed. These have officially been picked up to be a TV series. We don't know much yet after that, but I am so excited because reading these books, like most books that I read, I just like felt like I was watching a show while reading it, which is like the best compliment ever for a book. So it's mainly just the first three. You could read the first three and be fine, but then there is a fourth which kind of begins to lead into the next series, which is The Grandest Games. I have not read those yet, but I will be reading them this year, especially for the last book in that series to be released in, I believe, July. So my next favorites of series, again, I've read so many series. I read 6 series out of all the books that I read. So it was very few that I read that were not part of a series. My next favorites I'll be talking about is the Powerless series. I loved this series so much. It was so much fun reading them. I may or may not have cried pretty much the whole time reading one of the books. I definitely teared up at the end of 2 of the books for sure, and giggled and smiled and was shocked throughout all of them. I loved this series. It was so much fun. I know a lot of people say that, and I think also the author says it's kind of like a love child of the Hunger Games and the Cruel Prince, and I think maybe another book series. I have not read The Cruel Prince, so I don't know that storyline. This was just such a fun YA book series that just had a lot of plot and storyline to it. Now, she did come out with a second novella. So there's one novella here called Powerful. It comes right after Powerless, and it's before Reckless. There's another novella that she did that's kind of intertwined with the last book, Fearless, and that's Fearful. It's right there. I did not get around to reading it. I meant to, but then there were other books on my TBR of last year that I wanted to get through. So I will definitely be picking that up pretty soon this year, just so I can complete the series. Another reason why I loved this series so much is it was technically my second fantasy series I ever read, and I didn't know how I felt about fantasy. Read this and fell in love with it. Now, my first fantasy series that I actually read was a duology. So the first fantasy series that I ever read was The Shadows Between Us, and this is actually where we hit a favorites and my least favorite that I read last year, which is kind of crazy because this was definitely high up in my favorites. It's kind of funny that the second was my top least favorite of last year. And it's funny because my sister also agreed with me. She loved the first one, and it was like pulling teeth and pulling hair trying to finish the second one. Mainly because the second book follows the older sister to the younger sister of the first book. And this is about a Shadow King, to where he has shadows, and if you get near him or touch him, then he's not allowed to use his shadows, and that protects him and keeps him safe. So the younger sister is Alessandra. This is her book. I absolutely loved it. So their mother died when they were younger, and then the oldest sister kind of gravitated towards the dad and like pulled him to love her more and give her more affection, leaving the younger sister out of luck and pretty much hated by the father. So that's kind of where my dislike for the older sister came in, because she was very selfish. You learn in the second book why, and so I did kind of want to give her grace and give her the benefit of the doubt. I was really like ready for this to give like redemption story. The storyline of the love interest, it was good, but then parts of it was weird, and I can't really say much into that, but that was more so personal preference of reading a book. You may love the second book. I didn't. In the first book, Alexandra, the younger sister, goes to the castle for a ball where the Shadow Prince is trying to find a wife, and she's trying to convince him to fall in love with her so that she can get close enough to him, touch him, kill him, and pretty much just go on a rampage and then take over the kingdom, have power, and all that. That's obviously not what happens. There's also a map on the end pages, and then the cover's pretty too, It's just such a cute book, and I'm only keeping the second one because I've read the first and I can't just separate series, especially when they have sprayed edging. I felt very validated when my sister told me she also did not like the second book and did not care for the sister. She definitely had a bit of redemption story for sure, but the love interest, that part is what really got us, and I think that's why we both didn't care for the book. So again, I'm not going to expand on that because it is, I believe, a spoiler, and it might be other people's cup of tea, but it was not ours. Another book series that I read is actually my sister's favorite book series, or one of her favorite book series. It is the Belladonna series, and I personally really liked it. I definitely did not like it as much as she did, but I did think it was fun. But I will say, I definitely think that the series got better throughout each of the books, and my favorite book was actually the last one, which was Wisteria. So this series is more of a dark academia, mystery, fantasy book series. So it was very fun. There were parts in the first book that kind of had me a little iffy, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want it to be spoiled or whatever, but then it's not so bad once you go through. So the first book is about Miss Signifaro, and the beginning of the book, like, it just starts off with how her parents are killed with belladonna and pretty much their whole kingdom. And so she gets passed around from family member to family member, some good, some bad, but somehow they all end up passing away to then she gets to live with her uncle and her cousins. But everywhere she goes, death seems to follow her. Then living with her cousins, she tries to uncover the mystery of how her parents died and everything that happened 20-ish years ago. It was pretty fun. I did really like the storyline, plot twist, everything. The second one continues with Signa, but it also really expands on Blythe's story. So then we have Foxglove. That one was fun. It definitely got better, again, like I mentioned, throughout the series. So the second book got even better. And then the third book was my favorite with Miss Blythe. I absolutely loved Blythe. There's some romance in these books. They were very fun. I did really enjoy them. So I read these three. There is a fourth one that she came out with that is actually a novella, but is literally the same size as these books. But it is a Christmas novella called Holly that you can kind of see like right there. I intended on reading that this Christmas, but I did not get around to it, and I was also just ready for something new and something different. So I will be reading that this Christmas. And then the end of last year, I finally started the series that my best friend has been telling me about for many years, which is the Caraval series. I thought it was so much fun. I loved it. You are definitely like roped into the storyline the whole time. I could honestly say I think that the series gets better and better through each book. So Caraval is kind of like a carnival. It's like a magical carnival. This legendary game that is talked about worldwide in this world. The one who hosts it is named Legend. So you have to get a ticket from Legend himself to be able to enter into playing the Caraval games. This is a game where the audience is actually the participants in the game. It's very interactive, and he has some performers, and the whole thing is that it's just a game. It's not real. Throughout times, even though it may seem real, it's not real. Or so they try and make you believe that it's only just a game. So we are following two sisters, Scarlett and Donatella. They grow up with a horrible governor father who is just awful in so many ways. And Scarlett, the older sister, has always loves the idea of Caraval. Her mother and grandmother ends up telling Scarlett and Donatella stories about Caraval, the wonders of it. So it's obviously something that they are wanting to participate one day, and then they dream of, and especially dreaming of, to get away from their horrible father and trying to escape so that they can have fun. Well, they end up being able to go, and once they are on their way there, the younger sister Donatella gets kidnapped, and then ends up being that she is part of the game. So Scarlett is forced to play and has to go find her sister, but then finds out that she has to find her sister before the end of Caraval, or she may go missing forever. So that is what the first book is about. It is so fun. I loved this. It had so many twists and turns. It was just such a fun series that kept you interested the whole time. And then the other two follow after what happens in the first book, and I can't say anything else about that because obviously then there's just going to be full of spoilers. So these also have a Christmas novella called Spectacular. I also didn't get around to reading that before Christmas because I ended the year reading Finale. So I didn't end up getting to read the Spectacular book because I wanted to read it in the Christmas season. So again, I will be reading that this Christmas. Another favorite is Bridgerton. So this is the 6th Bridgerton book. This is When He Was Wicked. So this follows Miss Francesca. She is the 6th child of the Bridgerton family. I have 2 more books to go. I thought I was going to end up reading the 7th and 8th book last year, but I didn't. I know I will end up reading them this year, and then I will have completed the series. This is definitely an adult book. I loved this book. I have loved this series. This takes place during the Regency era. So if you have not watched the Netflix show Bridgerton, these are the books that inspired the show. It's so much fun. I will say there is some spice in here. I just skip through it. I do not read spice. I do not want to read books that have spice in it. The only time I do is if my sister's like, I know you're going to love this book or this series, just read it, skip through. She does the same thing. I don't want to read it. I don't like having that on my TV for shows or movies, so why would I want to read that? That's just not my cup of tea. It's a bit weird. I would rather books not have any spice in it. So I skipped through it. Granted, I think it only happens maybe like halfway or after halfway through the book, and so it's not like filled with it. There's maybe a few scenes, I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember because I just skip the pages and go on to the next chapter. Either way, the storyline is so fun. The whole series is so fun. I have loved every book. There has not been a book that I'm just like, that sucked. I've loved every single one of them, and I'm very excited to finish the series this year. So for the next category, we are doing the meh books. The books that I was just kind of like, I would have been okay if I didn't read it. It was all right, but it wasn't anything special. And they are funny enough. Also, the booktok books that I personally think are severely overhyped. The first one I'm going to talk about, I feel like is going to be slightly, I wouldn't say controversial, but probably surprising for some people. It was Beach Read. I went into this very blind, which I typically really like to do with books. I like to know very little as much as possible so that I'm fully just surprised with the whole book. This was also my first Emily Henry book. I have heard obviously wonderful, great things about Emily Henry. I don't think this was anything against her. I think the writing was very good. I just didn't care so much for the storyline, and I think it's because the title was a little deceptive for me because it doesn't take place at a traditional beach like I'm used to, where it's like, you know, the coast, Florida kind of beach or California kind of beach. It's more of like those lake beaches. So I think that part kind of got me, and it felt like it was going to take place on a beach, and it really doesn't. And I think that's why I was so about it. There's also spice in this book, which could be my fault. I just go into books thinking there's never going to be spice, and I had no idea that she writes a bit of spice in Miss Emily Henry. So I had to just skip those parts of the book and go on to the next chapter. I do have to say, it is a very beautiful edition. I do want to read a couple of her other books. I definitely want to get the pretty new special edition of People We Meet on Vacation. I want to read that before watching the movie. And I do know I really want to get Funny Story. I think Book Lovers. I think I want to try that one, and I want to try Happy Place because my sister has raved about Happy Place. So I feel like I need to read that one, and possibly Great Big Beautiful Life. I'm not sure about that one yet. I guess I do feel like it was overhyped, and it just wasn't anything special to me. Which I have heard that some people have said that Beach Read was not their favorite of her books. So that does make me feel a little bit better. But I do think she's a great author. So that is a bonus when I didn't care so much for the book. So the second meh book was We Started It, which is another big booktok book. I do not have that book. I borrowed my sister's. I don't know. The plot of the book I thought was really good. The ending I think is what definitely made it a little bit higher on my ranking. I think I may have ranked it like maybe 3 stars, and I think it was because of the ending. So the ending definitely got you. It was a good book. I did get the second book because I found it at Books A Million in the bargain section for like maybe $5, and it was hardback. I may or may not be keeping that book. You'll have to find out at the end of this video. I probably would have ended up DNF'ing that book if I was not pushing to read the book to then watch the series. And guess what? Didn't even finish watching the series. I don't know. It was kind of slow. Again, the plot was good. I don't think the execution of the book was great. I have looked at this book for many years. Even if I'm not mistaken on when it came out, I think I was looking at this book when I was in high school or like very soon into college. I would have been okay if I just told myself don't do it. Or if someone said don't waste your time, I would have been okay with not reading it. That leads us into the two books that I think were just bad. So the first one, like I had already mentioned, was The Darkness Within Us. And I've already done a brief of why I didn't like it. She was just, the sister was annoying. I was already annoyed with her. I initially thought it was because I'm the youngest of sisters. And so I thought that's why I just didn't like the older sister and how selfish she was. Then I asked my oldest sister how she felt about this book. And she also said she couldn't stand it either. So then that made me feel a lot better. So it was not just because I was also the youngest sister. It was because she was just annoying. So the second book that I thought was bad, which also leads into my DNF section, was the first book I DNF'd ever, and last year, was If He Had Been With Me. Now, I have looked at this book also for many years, and with the original publishing cover, and then they came out with this very pretty limited edition, which is just gorgeous. So that really reeled me in, made me want to get it. And they also had this on Kindle Unlimited. So I read it on Kindle Unlimited because this is such a beautiful book. I did not want to ruin it while reading it. And I don't think I was even able to get to 20 pages before I had to put it down. I don't think it was very well written. So the problem I had with this book, I really liked the idea of this book, and I might end up listening to an audiobook because I am still interested in it, and you're gonna understand why very soon why I had to DNF it, okay? And a big part of it is me. My sister also was reading it with me at the same time, and she ended up having to DNF it because there's a lot of literary and grammar errors. And if you know me, not great with grammar. I was not great with my English classes in school. So if I realize that there is an error, if someone says it or if I see it written on a page, that's when you know it's bad. So when I told my sister about it, she was like, yeah, no, it's bad. It just seems like, which I don't want to speak poorly of the author, it seemed like she did one draft, typed it all out, didn't realize that there were errors, sent it to publication, and her editor, they didn't really read it, or they didn't fix it, or they published the first draft instead of the edited one, if that makes sense. I think the storyline was going to be really good, but I could not get past the errors because I am ADD. Okay, the Lord so graciously gifted me ADD. But along with my ADD, I also got a free sprinkled bonus of OCD. It was unwanted. So when I noticed these errors, I could not get past it to the point where, like I mentioned, when I notice an error, I'm focused on, oh my gosh, I just saw that there was an error. Wow, look at me go. I'm so brilliant. I'm smart. Not really. But that's how I feel, to where then when I read it and I continued on, there was more and more and more, and I could not get past it. My little sprinkle of OCD would not let me get past it because then I kept finding more. The only reason why I do want to try this book again and listen to it instead of reading it is not only because the cover is beautiful, but the second book, I think it's If I Had Told Her, I think is what the second one is called. She also just came out with the beautiful limited edition that looks like this cover. It is the beautiful sister cover to this one, to where if it's a good enough story and a good enough book, listening to it, I'll keep it. So for right now, this is like on the shelf of, I don't know if I'm going to unhaul it or not. I've heard great things about it. I've heard not so great things about it, but for the most part, I've heard a lot of good things about this book. That is why I have held on to this book in the hopes that maybe one day I will just listen to it and love it. So from there, that leads us to our second book that I DNF'd. I do not have it anymore because I already unhauled it. I thought about keeping that book and another book that I ended up unhauling. I'll talk about it at the end of the video. That book is Our Infinite Threads. And I was very sad about getting rid of that book because, first of all, my precious mother-in-law bought me that book. The idea of the book and the plot sounded incredible. The storyline seemed really good. It is about two souls that end up taking each other's lives and ending them, and then their souls come back into a different body in a different timeline in a different part part of the world, and it just kind of keeps going throughout time to then where it gets to the present time, which was such a cool idea and thought for a fantasy book. Big hint on the fantasy book. As a child of God and a firm believer of my Lord and Savior, and also a born again believer, and it is by your free will that the Lord gives you, whether you choose to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, to then where you are saved and you are able to spend eternity with God in heaven. It's just not a thing to where you die and your soul comes back into another body. That's why I'll say heavy on the fantasy part, because that's just not a thing. That's not something we believe in and know to be. But again, for the fantasy, like, that part was really cool to me. I thought that was cool because then they had the knowledge of all those previous lives. So I thought it was gonna be such a fun book, and it was. I got maybe close to halfway. It was in between like a fourth of the book and halfway through the book, to then where I learned and was then starting to get conviction from the Lord, and started kind of seeing to where there was a possibility where the two souls were actually in different timelines, came back to be two male, and a different timeline to where it was two female. And once again, as a child of God and born again believer, I know that that is not what the Lord has planned for us. That is not what He designed for male and female. It is supposed to be male and female. And so I had conviction even trying to read any more of the book, with me possibly reading to where it followed along a relationship with two males and then a relationship with two females. I try and live my life the way that Jesus did here on earth, and the way that He asked us Christians and born again believers to live, is to love everyone equally, regardless of what their beliefs are, what their lifestyle is like. Treat anyone the same with love and compassion. So although I did really love the idea of the storyline, because it had the same gender relationships, that was something I just had to put down and obey the conviction that my sweet Jesus gave me. And I was okay with it, because I could pick up another book and it was not that big of a deal. In the end, I am happy to put down a book if the Lord tells me to do so. So to go over all the books, I read 6 series. The series that I read was the Inheritance Games, the Powerless series, Belladonna series, the Caraval series. I read the Shadows Between Us duology, and I also did a reread of The Summer I Turned Pretty, just in time for the last season of The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is based on the book We'll Always Have Summer. It was chef's kiss. Thank you, Jenny Han, for such incredibleness of us being able to watch our beloved Conrad. Great series. Loved the books, loved the show. I am so ready for the Christmas special. I don't know when we're getting it. We still, to this day, do not know when we're getting it, but it's okay. So that was such a fun reread. I love rereading those books. They were my first books that I ever read, that my sister told me to read in high school, and that is where I learned that I actually do love reading, instead of thinking that I hated it for most of my life. I also started 2 series and continued another one. So the one that I continued, like I mentioned, was the 6th Bridgerton book, which I will hopefully be finishing that series this year. And then I also started We Were Liars, and I will not be continuing that series. And then the other series that I started that I know I will continue is The Daughter of the Pirate King. So I do not have that book. I borrowed my sister's, and I believe it's also on Kindle Unlimited. I have the 3rd book, which is kind of silly that I have the 3rd book and I don't have the other 2. It's this really pretty spread edging one. The reason why I have the 3rd one is because they actually had it at Books A Million in the bargain section. So I knew I was going to eventually get it, so I grabbed it then. I think maybe it was around $6 or $7. So I had to get it because it was significantly cheaper, maybe around like half to third of the price of the original pricing. I know I need to go ahead and just buy the other 2 books. The reasons why I have not yet is because I'm hoping that I will be lucky and find them in the bargain section again. I probably will not. But that book was very fun, and I highly recommend that series. It's so fun. I'm so excited to finish that series. But yes, now on to the unhauling. Okay, so for the unhaul of books, the first one, like I mentioned, is Family of Liars. This is the 2nd book of We Were Liars. If I was to continue the series, I would probably just listen to the audiobook, and I didn't care enough for the 1st book to buy it and then also keep the 2nd one. And so I think I'm just gonna get rid of it. I'm not gonna worry about it. I didn't ever pick it up whenever I finished We Were Liars, so I'm just gonna let go of it. The next book I'm getting rid of is A Fate Inked in Blood. I thought about this one for a while. I have had it for probably over 2 years and I have not picked it up. I was gifted this book, so I didn't pay for it. Another reason why I kept it, and I have kept it for so long, is because of the beautiful blueness on it. I love blue and how it's that foiled sprayed edging. It's just beautiful. This is like my perfect blue, to where it's kind of like a powder blue, icy blue, just beautiful blue, a light blue. And I also learned that this is, I think, like a Viking kind of romance or Viking storyline. And once I learned that, I just kind of really lost interest. And not only that, a lot of booktubers that I have watched for a while now have actually said that the second book is really not as good as the first one. So with that being said, that just kind of sold it on me of just being like, I'm okay to just get rid of it. I'm not gonna read the first one if it's good. People have said that it's good, but the second one just kind of dies down. So I'm not gonna worry about that. Now, the two that I have already gotten rid of were Our Infinite Threads, which I already talked about, and then It Ends With Us. I bought that book before the movie ever came out because it's one of those that I obviously wanted to read before I watched the movie. Then I heard about the movie. I'm not talking about the controversy that has come out of it. I'm talking about the plot of the book / movie. And once I learned that it is heavy on DV, I knew that was not something I wanted to read at all. That's just not a plot that I want to read. That I don't think I could. That's just, I don't want to read that. It's that, no. Just no. I don't want to read that. That's something I don't like watching. That's hard to watch. I couldn't imagine trying to read it. It's not something I want. We got a puppy. Side note, and you can see the little poop of her little foot right there. So if you see her moving around, that's what she's doing. I will try and show you her at the end of the video. I wanted her to stay with me. She did not want to do that, so I was not going to force her, but she's stinking cute. And I also learned that it was possibly pretty spicy. And so before I got rid of the book, I opened it to like the first quarter of the book and saw several different times that there were spice in the first quarter. And I said, nope, I'm good. I'm going to get rid of that. That's not something I want to read. Oh, there she is. She's so cute. Her name is Wendy Darling. She has a cute little blue bow. She is named after Wendy Darling from Peter Pan. I will move these books so you can see her while she naps and while I continue finishing this one. She's so cute. She is a brown miniature schnauzer. We love her so much. She has one blue eye and one hazel eye. She is just precious, and she's such a good girl. So the last two books I'm getting rid of. Part of me is sad about it. Part of me is just not. The Christian part of me is not sad. Part of me that does not know how to get rid of things because of silly little reasons. It's Hexed and Hooked. So I got these books not knowing that they are so seriously dark romanced. So this author writes kind of like these, I think there's just 6 books, but it follows along villains and kind of gives them their own story, kind of making you like them, knowing why they're villains, but it's just like a whole different storyline. So it doesn't necessarily follow the original movie. So this one is about Vanessa, so Ursula from The Little Mermaid, and this is Hooked, about James Hook. I'm guessing his name's James in here, but Hook's name is James. So it's about them, kind of gives them a romance. I was told that they're dark romance. I was thinking, you know, more violence. That's what I thought they meant by dark romance, not spice and the crazy stuff happening. So from what I understand, I think this one was like mafia, possibly, type romance. So no. The reason why it took me so long to get rid of this book, you're gonna hear me and you're gonna say either that was silly, why didn't you get rid of it a long time ago, or I kind of get where you're coming from. So first of all, I love The Little Mermaid and I have always loved Vanessa. I just thought Vanessa was such a cool twist on Ursula. Another reason is that my husband bought it for me on our anniversary when we were going out to eat. We stopped by at Barnes & Noble, and this is the Barnes & Noble edition. So not only did he buy it for me, he bought it for me on our anniversary. So it's just kind of more sentimental things. And also, I wanted this one, specifically the Barnes & Noble, because the shell is purple. The normal published cover is pink color, but I wanted the purple because Ariel's shells are purple. So again, all 3 of those reasons are just like silly, but that's why I've kept it for so long. I thought it was gonna be a like good storyline with a little bit here and there. From what I have understood, it is spice with storyline instead of storyline with spice. So I'm not even gonna try it. Other one, which follows along with the 4th reason why I wanted to keep Hexed, is Hooked. So Hooked obviously is Hooked from Peter Pan. One of the reasons why I kept it, and also because it's such a pretty cover. It's so pretty, and then I learned that this is heavy in spice. So no thank you. I mean, it's just so pretty. It says darling right there for Wendy Darling. And I just always have loved the word darling. I think it's just so cute. And she is doing these limited editions for all the books that she has in the series. Again, I think there's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 in the series. I don't know if she's done or if she's continuing. This is not me recommending. This is me explaining, okay? I don't recommend it because of this spicy space. I don't like it. So she's done, I think, 2 others. And I know the reason why I wanted to keep this book and keep the Hex book is because I wanted to see what Hex would eventually look like for the special edition along with the sprayed edging. I know it's not a good enough reason, but my sister felt the same way too, and she's also getting rid of this book. So it's very understandable, kind of, not really. But these are the books that I am getting rid of, along with our Infinite Threads and It Ends With Us, already got rid of. So these are the ones I'm getting rid of. As of right now, I will probably end up getting rid of a few more throughout the year. I want to show everyone how cute you are. Okay, so this is Wendy Darling. She's very tired. She is a brown miniature schnauzer. The brown is called Liver with tan, and she's just so cute. She is a little fluffy. I grew up with miniature schnauzers, so I have a love for them. She is so sweet. We've had her for a couple weeks now, and her personality has come out. She's just a precious little girl. You can kind of see her blue eye is right here, and then her hazel eye is right here. I'm trying to move her eyebrows for you to see her better. So that is her Wendy Darling collar, because Wendy Darling has a blue nightgown and a blue bow in her hair, and so obviously it fits so perfectly for her. She is just the cutest thing ever. And for the ones that have seen previous videos, my family dog Lizzie, she's also a miniature schnauzer, and the 2 of them are best friends. But because she is the family dog, I am not allowed to keep her. I have split custody with my mother. I have visitation rights, so Lizzie gets to come over and hang out with us sometimes. So she does not live with me, and the 2 of them love each other, and that is what I needed. It's what my heart needed. So darlings, I hope you enjoyed today's video just as much as I did making it. If you did, make sure you click the like button down below and subscribe if you would like to see more videos like this. And please let me know in the comments if you have read any of the books that I mentioned, or if any of them are on your TBR. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, darlings. You're such a good girl. You're so cute. Mommy loves you. She's so cute. She's just the best girl ever.